Well, it is time for another installment of Flashpoint. This week, Justin Wormuth talks with a panel of folks on how they're getting anti-bullying results in Central Florida.
Good morning, I'm Justin Wormuth. Well, bullying, it is a problem in schools across the country. In fact, recent stats on bullying show that 1 out of 4 kids are bullied each day, and 1 out of 5 have admitted to doing it to a fellow classmate. No matter what form it takes, the experience can be traumatizing. So joining us today on Flashpoint, 2 men who are very active in getting anti-bullying results, Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey and Attorney Matt Morgan with Morgan & Morgan. We appreciate you guys being here this morning talking about this very important topic, and it has been around for years. This is nothing new, bullying, obviously. So bullying, been a national problem, Sheriff Ivey. Central Florida is no exception. What made you want to get involved in anti-bullying?
Well, you know, I think just in opening up, you kind of hit on something. It's been around forever. Historically, bullying was on the school bus and on the playground. Today, it comes into the bedroom, into the text message, into the email, into the Twitter account, and so on. So we saw the impact it was having on kids, not only in our community, but across the country. So we wanted to do something proactively to try and send a good, strong message that A, bullying wouldn't be tolerated, and B, that we need to bring awareness to the issue and also give the kids, the potential victims or the potential witnesses, an outlet for being able to let somebody know that something was happening. Kind of, if you see something, say something.
Absolutely. And Matt, your law firm has represented several families that have been victim of bullying. Personally, what was the first sign that made you want to get behind this anti-bullying campaign?
Well, you just see the epidemic and what it's becoming and the effect that it's having on the youth. We were contacted by a woman that had lost her daughter, and that really, to bullying, and that really is kind of what spurred our involvement in kind of the cause and figuring out a solution to it. So, you know, talking to families, reaching out to families, and families reaching out to us, and explaining the heartache that they feel as a result of not feeling as if they have any control over protecting their child. They see their child go off to school. They know that their child's going to be tormented, and they feel helpless to do anything about it. So to do our small role in trying to, you know, bring some type of justice to those families is important for us. Do
you feel like in today's day and age, with everything that people have access to, is bullying at the worst it's ever been?
No question.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. Is no question in that, and the only change to that is we may not be there just yet, because with all the new technology and all the new abilities that it brings, we could see it worsen. And I think, just like anything else, awareness is the key to it. We need parents to be engaged. In fact, a large part of what got us involved was trying to re-empower parents. I think society unintentionally robbed parents of their ability to be parents. And so we're trying to get them re-empowered. I don't want to say re-engaged, because a lot of parents are engaged, but they need to feel re-empowered to do it. And so having that one-on-one relationship with your child, getting them to open up to you. One of the statistics that is out there is that 50% of the kids that are bullied never tell their parents, never tell anyone. They just internalize it. And so that's one of the big hurdles to get past.
Are there any signs that are visible signs that parents maybe can say, hey, I have a feeling my child is being bullied? Because some kids don't go out and say it right away. They kind of keep it to themselves. They don't think it's a big deal. But are there any signs that parents can look out for, Matt?
Yeah, well, they're embarrassed. First of all, the child is embarrassed to admit to their parent that they're being picked on. So a lot of times, the parents have no idea that it's going on until something happens. So the only thing that we can encourage parents to do is talk to their children about bullying at their school and try to make them feel comfortable about talking about the topic with them. Like Sheriff Ivey said, bullying used to stop when you got off the school bus. Now it persists throughout the night, and it's nonstop. It's in their phone, and it's attacking them relentlessly. That's why the epidemic has become what it is because of social media.
Right.
Yeah. I think you have to also look for our parents. Being involved in your kid's life in every aspect, having access to their Facebook page, to their emails, to their Twitter accounts, because there's really 2 parallels here. One, we want to make sure that our child is not being bullied. We also need to make sure that our child's not the bully in it. So parent involvement is a big key to unraveling this horrific thing that takes place.
You guys stay right there. We're going to talk more with Sheriff Ivey and Matt Morgan when we come back on how certain bully prevention campaigns are getting results. Stay with us.
Morgan, what do we say about bullying?
See it, report it, stop it.
Excellent.
And that's a Brevard County Sheriff's Office crime prevention message on bullying from last year. And Sheriff Wayne Ivey alongside Matt Morgan joining us today on Flashpoint to talk about bullying. And Sheriff Ivey, talk about what the Sheriff's Office is doing in getting this under control. What kind of things are you guys doing?
Well, you know, a couple different programs. One is a program that we started called It's Time to Be a Parent Again. And we really arm our parents with all sorts of information. You know, things have changed so much in the last 20, 30 years. When I was a kid growing up, parents had a few things they had to be worried about. Today, they have a long list of things they have to be worried about. So bringing awareness to them, giving them some ideas of how to have that great communication, that great conversation with their child. The second is through the public service announcement that you just showed. That actually started with one of our school resource officers, Deputy Mike Williams, at one of our local high schools, and he has an anti-bullying program that, in fact, Morgan was part of it, and the whole thing. They actually came up with the content for that commercial and came up with the reality of why we need it. And so they go all over. They talk to kids of all ages about bullying and how it impacts them, and how if they see something, they should say something so we can stop it.
And Matt, we were just talking about how it used to be, bullying happened in school, stayed in school, and that is still the case. And a lot of folks think that bullying, the discipline, is also in school, but there are Florida laws that are fighting against bullying, right?
There's a Jeffries law that's codified into Florida law, and essentially it defines bullying and it tells schools what they have to do, and then it kind of points you and directs you over to the criminal statutes that could be used to punish a student, cyber stalking, things of that nature, aggravated stalking. But ultimately, it's really incumbent upon the administration at the school to have the correct policies and procedures in place to address the bullying complaint. So what I see in the cases, in the discovery, is the teacher does everything that they can to address the situation, and they ship it up to the administration, and the administration doesn't have the resources or the policies and procedures to properly address it. So from a school vantage point, that's where it all starts, is in those policies and procedures. Jeffries law also does talk about the funding for bullying issues and things of that line, but that's where it all starts and stops, is with the administration in these schools and the parents at home. That's the critical element, is the parents participating.
Exactly, and I know the parents can only do so much. They rely on the school for a lot of the things. They have work and everything like that. But in your guys' opinion, as far as what you've seen, have schools been doing a good job in combating bullying, or do they see it and maybe say, be nicer, and then they forget about it?
Well, first of all, I agree with Matt 100%. The teacher in the classroom is seeing it, they're making the notification, and they're pushing it up to be handled. I think at the top end, and this is not any set school system, but at the top end, they need to get a little bit more strict in the aspect of it, and say this is a serious issue. This is not just what used to happen on the bus or on the playground. On the bus or the playground, you could get away from it. Today, you can't get away from it. It is continual, and the emotional distress that's created. It's not just about the physical side of it; it's the psychological distress that goes along with it as well. And so, I think they have to get a little bit better, or a little bit more stringent, if you will, and strict in dealing with it.
And acknowledging it, Justin. I'll give you an example. I represent the family of a young boy who took his life at Greenwood Lakes Middle School after he was persistently tormented over a long period of time by mean-spirited bullies. The family went up and they screamed as loud as they could to the administration about the bullying before the boy took his life at school. We've now filed a lawsuit based upon negligent supervision of the child, negligence generally. And the response from the school has been, he wasn't bullied. They're not even acknowledging that the bullying took place. So until schools acknowledge that the problem exists, you can't come up with a solution. So in that particular instance, you have to think about if you were to send your child to a parent's home and the parent just didn't supervise the child and allowed them to be beat up. Well, is it reasonable for us to hold schools to a lesser standard than we would to our children's friends' parents? And I think if people started kind of focusing in on that issue at the administration level, I think you'd start to see some widespread changes.
And again, I mean, people associate bullying happening in schools, but Matt, this is not a problem that is just happening in schools. this is happening everywhere.
Exactly.
I mean, anywhere these kids go, they have a baseball team. They can be bullied on the baseball team as well. I mean, anything.
And it goes to different levels. You know, it's not just the kid that's having their lunch money taken from them or being picked on at school. It goes into when relationships terminate, or somebody, you know, posts a revenge photo on the internet. There are cases throughout the country where, because someone was bullying online, the cyber stalking as we call it, or revenge porn, where people have committed suicide, or people are kept from getting jobs because of what's out there circulating about them. So it's a dynamic problem that is coming in at a lot of different angles, and the key to it is recognition, knowing. I think Matt would probably agree that the biggest part is recognizing when your child is having they're withdrawn. They don't want to go to events at school. They don't want to play on the baseball team, as you pointed out. All of those are key indicators, and while there could be a lot of other things that are causing those, it's definitely a starting point to start looking at.
Is that based on because so many more people can see it on social media and other platforms like that, rather than just me picking on someone that was right here, and maybe a few people see it, but then you see the embarrassment level is raised.
Oh, it's the bar is much raised. In fact, you know, historically, the people that saw you getting bullied on the playground were the people that were on the playground.
Right.
Today, students in school are videotaping the actions of bullying taking place, and thousands and millions of people are seeing it. So that embarrassment is compounded in just an awesome capacity. And so the kids are now, there's nowhere they can go. And the other thing about it is it's permanent. Not only is the psychological damage permanent, the viral video that has it is permanent, and it's forever out there.
And Matt, you were talking about what happened at Greenwood Lakes Middle School, and that unfortunate incident, but there is a foundation that has started because of that. Can you talk about that, right? Is that true?
Well, yeah, there's a variety of different organizations that have popped up to kind of spread awareness, because that's the biggest issue that we see is there's not a level of awareness in the school system about this issue, and it's kind of brushed under the rug. I think if I were to voice parents' main complaint, it's that they're screaming at the top of their lungs, and the administration is acting like it's not happening.
And why is that, though?
Because they don't want documented instances of bullying. Why? Because it doesn't look good for their rating. If they have numerous complaints of bullying that are going on, and you can see a clear picture of a hostile place, then that's not good for business for schools. In this case of the boy at Greenwood Lakes, I just recently sent a request for admission, essentially asking Greenwood Lakes to admit that there's a correlation between being tormented over a long period of time and suicide. Now, the CDC says there is a correlation between persistent bullying and the increased likelihood of one attempting to take their own life. What does Greenwood Lakes say in response? They deny having any knowledge of any correlation. Well, if they don't know of the correlation, then what are we doing in our school systems? There has to be an acknowledgement and awareness, and there has to be action when parents are screaming at the top of their lungs about their children being tormented, sometimes to their death.
It's a topic that continues to be talked about, and until something happens, I think we are going to continue to have these discussions about this.
Yeah, and to Matt's point, I think for the schools, and this really goes even further in bullying, this is about the image of businesses and everything else, and a lot of different crimes. But it's become more about protecting the image than it is protecting the student or the reality of the causation.
Amen.
Well, guys, we appreciate you being here to talk about this very important topic. Hopefully, the discussions get smaller and we don't have to keep talking about this. But we again appreciate you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Sheriff Ivey and Matt Morgan on Flashpoint today. We'll be back with more news and weather in just a few minutes. Keep it right here.